We have our first question from our undecided voters in the room here at the SCG. This is Paul.
Hi, my name is Paul. Just a question for Allegra. If you win this election, when there is a government, where do you vote? And there is a hung parliament, where do you vote for? And the cost of living as well. That's more important at this stage than climate change.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Paul.
So, thank you for your question. And I think two things. One, in terms of, for me, I'm about policy, I'm not about parties. And so where I will vote for in terms of if there's a hung parliament, it will depend on what are the policies on offer and the opportunities on offer and how they will support the community of Wentworth. And at the same time, I'm also about how do we support the as you described, the cost of living and the economy, because they're absolutely vital. When I look at the cost of living in this country and in this area, petrol, for example, is one of those that a lot of people are facing. But at the moment, we've been let down by the fact that we don't have electric vehicles. So we aren't actually using, the sunshine in Australia. We're relying on expensive imported foreign oil, which is both a security risk to this country, but is also is a cost of living issue. So, my support is to say that climate, there's been this false world where they're saying climate is a cost of climate or the economy. Solar and renewable energy are the cheapest form of energy now, so they're absolutely important. But it's not just, as you say, climate, it is also about what are the policies that are going to take us forward. And we have issues around productivity. Wages are not going up and they haven't gone up in the last 10 years. And that's really problematic. And so it's about saying, well, how do we help that, change that? We're also wasting money and have wasted money in the last period of time because of, pork barrelling and use and government expenditure. So I think what we need to do in terms of wages is we need to look at how we ensure that we get the right skilled migration into this country. We need productivity improvements, particularly in the business community, around reducing regulation and red tape. And we need to really innovate into the future areas where we can have our future prosperity. Those are the things that will make the biggest difference.
Dave, would you like to make any points there? Cost of living is a potent issue right now. Would you concede there's not a lot of politicians can do? I know your government's cut the fuel excise for 6 months, but beyond that, there are limitations, aren't there?
Well, I think we've done a lot to address cost of living pressures, including in the last budget, and I think it's an incredibly important issue. Yes, we've cut the fuel excise levy for 6 months, and you've seen petrol prices at the pump go from something like $2.20 a litre down to about $1.70 per litre. But we've also increased the low and middle income tax offset for this year, which will benefit about 51,000 taxpayers here in Wentworth. We've also got to keep a lid on inflation because inflationary pressures are building in the economy as well. And we're putting in place policies, including withdrawing fiscal stimulus from the economy to make sure that inflation is under control.
Now, Allegra, just on the hung parliament question that Paul put to you, there hasn't been a Labor member for Wentworth ever. Will you have that in mind when you make that call?
Look, I will absolutely. I have the community of Wentworth very much in mind if it comes to that situation. And it's really about what are the values of this community and how to make sure that you best represent it. And whatever happens, whatever parliament we have, whether we have a hung parliament or majority of either side, I will be advocating, I will be legislating, and I will be voting on the basis of what's important to this community. Because this community doesn't have a voice.